Welcome to the Boxing Media Hub Fighter Series, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. A weekly show where we talk about a random fighter and the historical sense of the sport of boxing. And given what we have coming up this weekend with the rematch between Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev for the light heavyweight championship, the topic for today is an all-time great light heavyweight that basically through the 60s and most of the 70s ruled the light heavyweight division. We are talking about the great Bob Foster. A 6'4" light heavyweight, which was a rare build back in those days. Tall, lanky, nicknamed the Sheriff simply because he knew how to control the ring. Had a left hook where he put it on you. He was basically on the canvas. Had ventures at both light heavyweight and heavyweight, but his ventures at heavyweight were not that great, especially early in his career when he fought the very standout heavyweight at the time named Ernie Terrell, and Terrell just beat him. Foster made the move back to light heavyweight in the beginning of 1967, and that was where his career really started to take off and ascend to his status among the all-time great light heavyweights. It was a year after that he signed to fight the standout light heavyweight Dick Tiger, a three-time world champion in 2 weight divisions, in a fight that, going to win this fight, nobody thought you could hurt or damage Dick Tiger. Bob Foster had other ideas. This match was really good. It was really wild for a light heavyweight. It was almost like a foot difference. And it basically showed where Bob Foster just controlled the ring from start to finish, utilized his skills, utilized his reach. And then out of nowhere in the 4th round, a picturely perfectly placed left hook right onto the chin of Dick Tiger. And Bob Foster had him down and out for the count. And Dick Tiger couldn't beat the count, and Bob Foster ascended to his distinction of the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. At a time when it was a 2-belt era, and when you won both belts, you were given the distinction of the name undisputed, which meant a lot back in the 60s and 70s. And Bob Foster became the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. Ascended to outstanding heights and had one of the great runs in the history of this light heavyweight division. We talk about the fact he made 14 successful title defenses against 13 different fighters and basically scored knockouts in virtually almost all of them. We can think about it because he knew how to control the ring. He used not only did he have the great left hook, but he also used that extended reach, which is 80 inches, which was unheard of for a light heavyweight at the time. Think about it as what Tommy Hearns would look like as a light heavyweight. That was what Bob Foster was. Tall, lanky, ability to use his jab, but had the perfectly placed left hook where he hit you with that left hook. You were on the canvas, and that was all she wrote. And that's what Bob Foster did to Dick Tiger and basically did to all of his opponents when he reigned as the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. Now, in the middle of the reign, he took 2 more shots at heavyweight, fighting for the heavyweight championship against Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. Neither of them were successful, simply because, Frazier and Ali were all-time greats. I mean, let's get that out of the way. Everybody knows this. But Bob Foster was probably best suited to stay at light heavyweight, where the 2 times he tried at heavyweight for the title, not only did he lose, he got overwhelmed. But, of course, you're talking about two of the premier heavyweights of the 70s, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, because he wanted to be the first light heavyweight to win the heavyweight title, which on those 2 occasions, he didn't achieve his goal. But Bob Foster's legacy wasn't always will be when you talk about some of the great light heavyweight champions. He's essentially up there. I mean, we think about, Ezra Charles, Billy Conn, Archie Moore, and the list goes on and on. Bob Foster is certainly up there. And when he reigned as the 2-belt undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, he was a king of the crop. And when you have the name undisputed back in the 60s and 70s, you was the man to beat. Now, remind you, this was at a time when belts actually meant something. And Bob Foster took extensive pride in being the undisputed champion in both weight classes. Now, the corrupt rankings, as we know it, started to get to Foster a little bit. One time he was stripped of a belt because he refused to make it mandatory against a guy he defeated. Went up winning the belt back. Basically came on a rant and said, I hated governing bodies, which, who doesn't? Then he made a few more successful title defenses before dropping both belts for good at the end of 1977. simply because, one champion, one contender was the standout Victor Galindez out of Argentina. The other was John Conte of the UK area. And basically, Foster just had enough, and he basically vacated the belts for good in the middle of his long, terrific reign as the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. And he decided to just basically retire as a standout light heavyweight. He did have a couple fights later on in his career again, a heavyweight, but nothing worth standing out. But we talk about Bob Foster's place amongst the all-time great light heavyweights, widely somewhere in the range of the top 5 to top 10. I mean, 14 successful title defenses, did it against 13 different fighters, which is something that's almost unheard of. We talk about title defenses because we have that long of a reign and you fighting many fighters, you would think you would have a rematch or two in the middle there. But when Bob Foster was winning fights, he was just winning fights. He was winning them by knockout, and he was winning them emphatically to where there was no rematch necessary, especially in the light heavyweight division. And Bob Foster, that's why he'll always be remembered among the greats. His style, his height, and his long reach, he can hang with anybody in any era. And if you have the ability to put a left hook on you on your chin, it's basically good night. I mean, that's what we saw when he won the title from Dick Tiger back in 1968. Because nobody even envisioned Dick Tiger being knocked out in any fight. Because at one point, Tiger had widely regarded as one of the great chins in boxing history. And Foster puts the left hook perfectly on the chin, and that was all she wrote. Just a standout light heavyweight was the great Bob Foster. And we think about what's going on this weekend with the Bevo Better Beef winner. It puts in perspective when you think of the old school 8 in the light, especially in the light heavyweight division. I mean, as great as the winner is going to be, there were guys like Bob Foster will always stand out over them because he did it at a time when you didn't need to go through all kinds of political wrangling or any kind of a robbery or anything, whatever, to get a title shot. Bob Foster was one that persevered, did it the hard way, got to the top, and when the opportunity knocked him in 1968, when he knocked out Dick Tiger, he reached the pinnacle of his profession and became a standout light heavyweight, and his place in history is forever etched in stone. I mean, what can you say? I mean, if I had to put a top 10 list of all-time great light heavyweights, and I would like to, I'll probably do that here at some point, he's somewhere up there in the middle of the pack. Can't really pull him over a guy like Ezra Charles or Billy Conn or Archie Moore because they had longer primes, greater longevity. In the case of Billy Conn, you could argue the greatest prime in light heavyweight history. But Bob Foster is certainly among the tops of the all-time greats. Was certainly a one-of-a-kind fighter. His place in history is secure. Any boxing historian will tell you just what type of a matchup nightmare Bob Foster would be in any era. We consider a guy was 6'4" with an 80-inch reach, knew how to use it, and when he placed that left hook on your chin, it was all she wrote. Just a terrific light heavyweight at a division that had a ton of great light heavyweights. Bob Foster is one of the few that really stood out. And man, if he was here today, this light heavyweight division would be his, bar none. The dude was just a standout talent. And what more can you say? I mean, that was Bob the Sheriff Foster. And that'll wrap up this brief edition of the Fighter Series on the Boxing Media Hub. Hope everyone has themselves a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.